Okay, so my name is Altair de Almeida I'm a director of the London School of Biodanza, and we've had questions from at least one student how to deal with suicides or suicidal students who are threatening suicide. So this is quite a profound subject, and I'm sure it has affected a lot of teachers around the world. So I'll even do a translation eventually in Spanish. So I invited Markus Stueck. You might have heard of him. He's very well known in the Biodanza circles for research. He's been researching Biodanza for over 20 years, both at the University of Leipzig in Germany and also the University of Applied Sciences in Leipzig, Germany. So he's a professor of psychology, and he's been doing that for 20 years as well. So welcome to England, and
Thank you, Altair.
So nice to have you. We're in Cornwall at the moment. We've just done some Biodanza Aquatica and really enjoyed it. So I thought we'd take this opportunity to ask this question. Okay, so if in a class or on the phone your student says to you, I'm thinking of committing suicide, so what would you do?
Yes, this is a real situation, because so I mean, if you are a Biodanza teacher, you are responsible for the people in your class. So if someone comes and say this sentence, you have to take it very serious, and you cannot solve this problem on a telephone. There's no problem. It's not possible. So you should meet this person. You should say, okay, I come to you. I want to see you. I will talk with you. Yes. We call it acute crisis intervention. Okay. So the acute crisis intervention, in my point of view, you have to do as a Biodanza teacher, because this person is coming to you. Yes. You are accompanying this person maybe since a longer time. Yes. You have stimulate a process maybe in this person. Yes. Maybe because Biodanza not always goes linear to improvement. What we found in the research, sometimes especially with these pre-morbid personalities, means personalities who has already conflicts and traumas. Yes, the symptoms get worse when you start the process of Biodanza. That's normal. Yes, that's a normal reaction. So in some way you are responsible for this guidance of this situation. Yeah. Yes, maybe, and that's why you have to know. Maybe there is a psychotherapist next to you who are also working with this person. Maybe not, but maybe there are family members. Yes, who are also involved in this situation. They know about this, and then it's at least your duty. Yes. To find out some contact person who are near to this person, to talk and to inform this person, and then to organize a team, yes, supporting team, yes, who's going along with this problem. Yes, you cannot solve the problem. You never can solve a problem. Like, you are not responsible for the solution of the problem. Yes, because when I'm a psychotherapist, I'm not responsible for the solution of a patient's problem, but I'm responsible for the setting, yes, and for the process which I set up in this moment, yes. And if there is an acute situation, I have to be very close, yes, of course. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
No, first of all, you have to look what is it, what is behind it, yes, behind the suicide. You have to be very aware about this kind of things, because when I worked as a professor, for instance, I got to know that the student suicided herself from a high bridge, and she jumped down, and everybody was shocked about this, because I asked myself, she was 2 weeks ago in my exam, and I asked myself, did you do any mistake, or did you not see anything in her which as a signal what was going on. Yes. And I didn't see anything. So sometimes it's very hidden, and we have to distinguish the suicide attempt, yes, from the suicide. The suicide, you have to give no signals. But in most of the cases are suicide attempts. Maybe in some psychotherapists say in 60% of the cases, some in 80% of the cases, it doesn't matter. Yes, but a suicide attempt, you can find some signals. For instance, first of all, behind the suicide attempt is a difficult life situation. Yes? And our society becomes more and more threatening, yes, existential threatening, and the isolation and people feel lonely is getting more and more. So this is now at the moment is a big subject of discussion in the psychology in Germany, for instance, the loneliness of many people, of middle-aged people, of old people, yes, and a companion or the big illness. Also, Rolando Toro always said, which accompanying this loneliness is the depression. Mm-hmm. And there are different forms of depression. We would not talk about the forms now, but one symptom of the depression is the motivation to suicide. Mm. So, and of course also the lack of motivation to act, yes, and to go into life, yes. And so how can you see it? First of all, people speak about it sometimes. If people speak too much about death, yes, they say, for instance, yes, I look movies where people suicide, or sometimes I'm thinking to kill myself, yes, for instance. So sometimes there are hidden messages in the saying of the people, yes. Mm-hmm. And if you listen it, you should be a little bit aware, yes. And because one important thing is to speak and to talk. To talk to them, yes. To offer them to talk, maybe to have a coffee together, and to go somewhere and to make a conversation about how to feel, what happened in your life, how your circumstances. If you are a Biodanza teacher, you should know about your people, yes, around you, what your people are doing, which kind of maybe also problems have the people, yes, that you can stimulate a support, yes, affective net in the Biodanza group. The affective net is very important, that people can support each other, that people know the telephone numbers of each other, that people, sometimes you also call the people, yes. So this you can organize as a prevention, this affective net, mm-hmm. yes. And if there is this kind of symptom that a person, for instance, has a depression and talk about death, then you should take it serious. Yes. Also, if you observe that people, because one part of the depression is that people have a lack of motivation for activities. Yes. Mm-hmm. And if you see, for instance, that people stop doing their hobby or their leisure activities in the spare time, okay. Yes, you should be a little bit alarmed, yes, and you at least should find a way to find out what is the reason for this. Mm-hmm. Yes. There are other things, for instance, if people give away private things, yes, if they share and give away things which they maybe like, yes, okay. And you see that they give it as a gift to many people. So this could be also one symbol of saying goodbye, yes. Or if people, for instance, have difficult critical life situations, yes. For instance, if a family member die, yes, mother, father, but maybe or children also. Yes, this is a critical life event.
Yeah,
yes, where you have to a little bit more sensitive. Yes, to feel what happened to the person, but also also sometimes can be silly things where you don't think it's significant. For instance, if a dog or a cat die in Western societies, yes, because the animals have a big compensation for people, and this could, especially in very traumatized people, could evoke a crisis. Yes, and let me say one thing: the suicide attempt is always a signal for the outside world. Please, I'm alone.
Help.
Okay, I need help. So this is this we have to understand, and unfortunately, some people, they do the attempt in the hope that they get found. Yes, but they didn't prepare it well, so they die. Yes. For instance, there are cases where people hang themselves and they know that to this time a family member comes back in the flat, yes, but in this day it comes half hour later or 20 hours later, 20 minutes later, and then the person is dead. If you have a depression, generally spoken, major depression, yes, and the psychiatrist has to give some antidepressiva, which is a quite delicate question, if to do and what to give. Yes, because every antidepressiva is stimulate in different forms, in different ways on different people. Mm-hmm. So the psychiatrists say always, if we don't give the right antidepressiva for a major depression, then we lose the race against the suicide. Yes. So the suicide could also be one problem of a depression. Yes. And
it's a result of the drugs, you mean?
No, of the depression, not of the drugs. Okay. The drugs try to help, but the depression is they lose the race against the depression. Yes. But if you don't have a major depression behind it, you have a depressive reaction because of critical life events or a traumatic experience, for instance, then the whole sensation of a person becomes very dark, yes, senseless and hopeless, yes. And I think in this occasion, of course, Biodanza helps a lot in this occasion, but you will also feel that the people avoid the class of the Biodanza class. Yes. For instance, we had in our studies in the beginning of the 2000s, we had psychotherapy patients with depression. Yes. And some patients, there was one patient I remember. He came to Biodanza, and he liked Biodanza, but he never appeared again. He never came back. Yes, and of course we were interested why he doesn't come back. So we asked him why he doesn't come back to Biodanza, and he said some reason, because he didn't like this and he didn't like this. And then we saw the measurement of the sympathetic activity, and we found that during Biodanza there was not so much sympathetic activity, but shortly after Biodanza. Yeah? So there was a significant increase of the excitement. Yes? And sometimes the depressive patients, it's too much. They cannot cope with this sensation. Yes, so they avoid. Yeah? So
when you say sympathetic, too much activation.
Too much activation, too much inner activation of the nervous system, of the sympathetic nervous system. Mm-hmm. Yes, and
but that means a lot of activity in the Biodanza class.
Yes, a lot of activation in the Biodanza class. Yes, mm-hmm. And so if you have, for instance, the participants who might have a depression, I think the the care after the class is very important. Yes, like to talk, not to let them go alone home, for instance, to be in a group afterwards, to integrate the experience, to have an affective net to care for this person. Yes, the next time maybe to speak to the person in the beginning circle and to ask how do you feel, was there something special what you felt, maybe to explain in general the effect mechanism of Biodanza, that Biodanza can produce excitement, yes, which is new and which maybe leads that what is new you try to cover or you try to avoid, yes. So, and to speak a little bit about this, that the person can understand what is going on, yes. So there are many information what you could give in this context.
So one of the things I'm taking from this is that it's a good question when for teachers when new students come, maybe to ask in a questionnaire, are you on any drugs, have you had any medical problems in the past?
I mean,
certainly in our school we do that.
Yes, of course. And it's very important to know about this. If it's a question or if it's a little interview, it doesn't matter, but you have to know about this, that's clear. Because if you don't know about this, Biodanza is a very strong impulse, biological impulse, yes. You can produce reactions which are quite complicated, yes. If you don't know which medicament a person takes, and maybe the relaxation, the regression is just productive to the medicament.
Yeah,
Yes, this can be, or the immune system is very affected. For instance, if you have a person who take immunosuppressiva medicaments which suppress the immune system because of medical reason, you have to know it, because otherwise the immune reaction is very strong in Biodanza, for instance, yes, in regression states. So you have to know about the situation of your students. Yeah. One time I had, for instance, or we had with Alejandro, we had a student who had a very rare allergy on relaxation stimulus, and she reacted with a contraction of the airways. Yeah. So she was getting no air in the class, yes, and she had a medicament which you could inject, yes. So we had to know it before, yes, that we had to inject her in the Biodanza class this medicament. So you have to know about this kind of things. It's very important, yes. If the crisis happen, yes. It's happened not every time, but it can happen. A lot of things, or panic attack, for instance. Take a panic attack, yes. It can happen in the Biodanza class that people get a panic attack, yes. And then you have to know what is a panic attack, what can you do if it's happened, yes. Because a panic attack, for instance, is evolved if people relax, you know, they're losing control and then they get this panic attack, yes. So, and then is the question how to solve it. And here there is no general advice, but if you have any kind of dissociative behavior, it means the music's relaxation and you have a very activated behavior, for instance. Yes. To transform is always holding the other, by holding. Yes. So sitting down, holding the other, laying down, put the legs up, keeping contact. Yes, that's very important. So I think this is the whole. You started with suicide, but it's a whole range in our society at the moment, unfortunately, with possible reactions on a body-oriented intervention. Yes, where I think it's important to know as a Biodanza teacher, because as Raoul Tereng, with Biodanza you drive a Ferrari, but you have to know how to drive. Yes, and well. Okay.
So the what I'm taking from this is something that's not always advised, actually, even for in an ordinary weekly class, is to have a questionnaire that asks if you're on any medication, if you've had any operations. It's useful information to get. If someone doesn't tell you, obviously you don't know, but it's useful even for weekly classes to have.
Yes, but also, yes, absolutely. Also, high blood pressure. You have to know. For instance,
yes.
Do you have high blood
so
pressure?
the question is, are you on any medication? If so, what?
Do you have any chronic illnesses? Yes, what you have to know. Yes, that's very important.
Okay, great. I think this will be useful for teachers around the world, so I'll try and make sure that this goes around.
Thank you, Altair, for inviting me all the time.
Thank you.
And sharing the knowledge. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.